It is that time of year when we do the mid-year freakout tag. We're going to talk about books that we loved, books that were disappointments, books that made us cry, books that made us happy, a bunch of stuff. Okay, so the first question is, what is the best book that you've read this year? And this year, my favorite book I've read so far is The White Octopus Hotel by Alexandra Bell. It is the most magical book I've read this year. There's this hotel that exists, and it seems like it exists outside of time. Because in the current time that our main character is from, Eve Shaw, this hotel is kind of falling down in a decrepit, mess. There's rumors, though, that if you can find a certain room and open it with a key, you find your way back in time and into this hotel. And then also, artifacts from the hotel are supposedly magical and have different powers. And it follows these two characters, Eve and Max, who apparently knew each other throughout time and outside of time. And it's a emotional, magical, beautiful little story. And I'd read another book by this author called The Winter Garden. It was also one of the most magical books I've ever read. It's so freaking good. If you like a dark time travel-esque fantasy with just really magical stuff that happens in it, White Octopus Hotel is quite fantastic. There's also an octopus that swims around in the walls too. So I don't know, it's kind of weird as well. So that definitely appealed to me. Okay, so the next is, what is the best sequel that you've read this year? And so at this point in the year, I haven't read a whole lot of sequels, but I did read the sequel to The Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub, which is Black House. And it had such Twin Peaks vibes that it immediately appealed to me. The story is so much faster than The Talisman, and it's such a different animal from The Talisman. So in the first one, you have Jack Sawyer, and he goes on this epic quest to get this talisman to save this kingdom and also to save his mother, who is dying of cancer. And so he was 12 in that. And then you come to this story, and he's 34. He's a retired LA detective. He moves out to, I believe it's Wisconsin, and he falls in love with the land, and it's really beautiful there. And he doesn't want to be pulled back into investigating stuff again, but he ends up being pulled back in. But the investigation for the crimes that are happening, there is a tie to the territories where he went in the first book. He doesn't remember any of that, though. He's convinced himself it was all just dreams and whatever else, but he's going to have to remember to help save these kids who are going missing. And I thought it was quite fantastic read. The reason I read those two books this year was I am super excited because the third Talisman comes out in October, and I'm very, very excited to read it because it also ties in the Dark Tower series, which is one of the best fantasy series I've ever read. Okay, so the next question is, a new release you haven't read yet but want to. So that book is Abyss by Nicholas Binge. This is on my most anticipated reads list. I made a video about that earlier this year. He writes really weird and strange books. This one is a short little novella. It's horror. And since I really liked the last two books I read by him, one was called Ascension, the other one is Disillusion. I do have standalone book reviews for those if you're interested in checking those out. I'll have those linked down below in the darkness. But anyways, Abyss, it's about this guy named Joe. And Joe always had potential, but he doesn't expect much. And he hopes that his new job as an admin assistant won't expect much of him. But when he enters the offices of Ponos, a company he's never heard of and knows nothing about, he discovers the potential is exactly what they want from him. And it says the feverish dive into the inhumanity of late-stage capitalism and crippling anxieties of modern life. The cover with the weird shadow and looks like there's tentacles creeping down the hallway. I don't know, I was very intrigued by that cover too. And just the fact that I liked the two prior books that were super weird. It's very psychological, his reads, so super excited for this one. The next question is, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And that is the book Pictures of You by Josh Malerman. If you've been around the channel, you may know that I am a Josh Malerman fan. And I might also say there's kind of a tie. Let's be honest. There's a tie for this because I'm also super excited for Crone by Keith Rawson. So I feel like I can't not say that as well. So I have two. I love the way that both of them write. Keith Rawson is more new to me. I've only read 3 of his books. Josh's, I've read most of what he's written. I'll give you a brief synopsis of both of those. So, Pictures of You. After a magical night on the town with her boyfriend Jack, Emily wakes alone in a huge bed in a beautiful, well-lit room. But the pink ceiling, the mauve walls, and the deep dark corners are nothing like the hotel she and Jack had rented. More worrisome yet, Emily has no memory of this place from the night before. Where is she? A woman's voice directs her to remain in bed. Just so. And beyond the end of the bed, a picture frame upon an easel. A frame with no canvas, no painting, no art. Only there is a silhouette of a person Emily does not recognize. A person emanating demand, danger, evil. And the way the woman talks and the things she says, she's acting as if Emily herself is the painting, the still life, the art. So Emily is as scared as she's confused. But it's immediately clear Jack's life is on the line with her own. And if she attempts to escape the bed and the wood frame of this nightmarish masterwork, neither will survive the experience. Sounds super weird, and I'm very excited for this one. So let's tell you about Crone. And if you haven't read Keith Rawson yet, what are you doing with your life? Okay, so I do know that the Fever House duology is a lot to handle. It's very gory. It's so effed up, but it's so good if you like horror. Coffin Moon is another like a vampire horror, and it's absolutely awesome. And so I'm very, very excited for this one, Crone. Okay, so Eli Lamp is a broken man, an ex-detective, an ex-addict, and a long-grieving father whose daughter Hannah disappeared a decade before. Eli decimated his old life, investigating her abduction, and is now indebted to the Crooked Wheel, a local drug gang, as an enforcer. He lives in a rundown trailer at the edge of the woods where he keeps Hannah's room in a pristine condition and tries to make it through one day at a time. But when the son of the Crooked Wheel's boss is found viciously murdered in a crime scene that doesn't seem to add up, Eli receives a new order. Find out who the killer is, and your debt to the Crooked Wheel is clear forever. You're free. The pursuit brings him into the orbit of Avery Bryant, Hannah's best friend, and the last person to see her before she went missing. Soon, Eli and Avery are entwined in a hunt for answers that span decades, stretches the realm of the possibility, and brings churning to the surface a conspiracy linking not only those current tragedies, but the buried sorrows of Eli's past. And though none of them dare to say the word witch, at least not out loud, something lurks in the woods. Bent-backed and black-eyed, clawed and vengeful, looming ever closer. So the next question is, what was your biggest disappointment? And I feel like a lot of times I DNF stuff so much that I don't get to the disappointment. But I did read one book that the synopsis sounded really freaking cool. This guy moves into this like old recording studio that's now like been remade to, be living quarters or whatever. He moves in there and it seems like he's being like surveilled. And this was this book called Such an Odd Word to Use. Tiny little novella, which is I think the only reason I finished it. There was no highs, there was no lows. It was just one straight line. And then I just didn't care at the end what happened. It was like, oh, okay, cool. But like, it seems like it's going to be weird. One day he comes home and he finds like his porch light bulb is like sitting on this step to his front door. And he's like, okay, that's weird. So puts it back in. And then he comes home again and it seems like someone tried to pull out the housing of his light. And then the light bulb's on the step again. And then his neighbor is like, comes over and talks to him. And he's like, your light was flickering in and out of my window. It was bright. And he's like, did you do this? And the guy's like, no, why would I do this? And then like he gets the feeling that people are following him and watching him, but like none of it's ever exciting. None of it's so lackluster. And the writing was actually decent and descriptive, but it was so just straight line and never went anywhere. And it was a disappointment. Next question, we'll say question or thing is like, what was your biggest surprise? I think my biggest surprise was discovering how much I love the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. This was recommended to me by a friend. I honestly hadn't planned to get into it. I started with book 1. I now am on book 6, which I should be starting very soon. From book number 1, immediately pulled in. They just keep getting bigger and better, and it's such a wild and zany and crazy series. I do have like a playlist of all the videos so far. I can put a list of playlists down. I have the first 5 books. Standalone reviews for him back to back in the playlist. I love it. And that was a big surprise by how much I love it. It's awesome. So the next question kind of ties into this. Favorite new author? So that would be Matt Dinniman, who wrote the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Hadn't read anything by him before this year. Okay, and the next question is newest fictional crush. And I always find this dumb because I don't have crushes on fictional characters, at least not in books. I've had them on like television show characters, but in books like that just doesn't seem to happen. So then I always say this question is dumb. I guess it's not dumb. It's just I don't know. I don't have one. So newest favorite character, Princess Donut from the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. And if you didn't know, Princess Donut is a cat. A lot of my answers to these questions are going to have to do with Dungeon Crawler Carl, I feel. Not all of them, but like a chunk. So the next question is book that made you cry. The Butcher's Masquerade, which is book 5 in the Didn't Crawler Carl series, made me cry a little bit because there's emotional parts in it. So the next question is book that made you happy. And that is the book Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. Heather Fawcett wrote the Emily Wilde series that was about the Fae. And so I wanted to check out her newest about the Mystical Cat Shelter. And it's just weird and wondrous and magical. And there's a bunch of cats in it. And it's zany and it's fun. And I absolutely loved it. Okay, so next we have most beautiful book bought or received this year. And I get most of my books from the library, so I don't buy a ton. But I did really like the cover of this one, which is What the Woods Keep by Katya de Becerra. And I am a huge fan of this color scheme, like black, white, red, gray. But yeah, I don't have any that are really, really, truly like fancy and swirly and beautiful or gold or whatever, but like I just really like this and the color scheme. Maybe I've bought like 15 books. The rest have come from the library. I mean, I read so much horror that a lot of the covers aren't very pretty, okay? Okay, and then next we have what books do you need to read before the end of the year? Okay, so I did set myself a Stephen King TBR this year. I don't do a whole lot of TBRs just because I'm a mood reader, so I like to bounce around and I don't like having to like force myself to read something if I don't really feel like reading it. But I did decide, you know, I want to read these Stephen King books this year. So we still have The Institute by Stephen King, Duma Key, and this is the year I'm finally going to tackle It. We're going to read It. It's gonna happen. I've been putting it off for so long because that book is so huge. It's like over 1,000 pages. So it's so intimidating to read a book of that size, which I think I'm about to read a book of that size with the newest Dungeon Crawler Carl book because I didn't look at the page count, but it's like seriously huge. I got it from the library, so I didn't know exactly how huge. I knew they kept getting bigger, but I was like, holy bananas, it's so thick. Anyway, this is one of my favorite tags. One of the only ones that I tend to do every year. I think I've done this. This might be the 4th year. I could be wrong on that. This is also part of the video where I'm supposed to tag people, but you know, you're busy, life is busy. I don't like to tag people because I don't want them to feel like they have to do the video or whatever. So if you enjoyed this tag and feel like you might like to do it, consider yourself tagged. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.